nothing will humble you and scare you like emptiness. Like, my life doesn't matter. And when I tell you that your life does matter, right? Like, if you're willing to hear it, you'll realize the thing that you actually want to run from the most is the emptiness in your life. And I tell men all the time, like, I can make one promise to you about the gospel, is that you'll never know emptiness if you'll follow God. And that is better than anything else you could possibly face.
It's impossible.
Let me tell you what I believe.
But your weakness is not your technique.
Yes! Yes!
Don't think you are. Know you are.
The Impossible Life podcast.
I mean, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket.
An idea that is fully formed, fully understood, that sticks.
This is the Impossible Life podcast because Nick and I are attempting to live impossible lives. What we know is that nothing is impossible. So instead of using impossible as an excuse to not try, we'll use the pursuit of impossible as an accelerant for greatness. If something's never been done before, that just means it's unexplored. If they tell you it's too hard, it's just waiting to be simplified. Impossible is a default label used by uncourageous people, unwilling to take a risk. The real truth is this: the solution to any impossible task starts with this question. If I had to, what would it take?
Welcome to another episode of the Impossible Life podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Surface, and I'm looking across at a man whose 14th biggest dream is to have someone break into his house. That's right, friends, the former Navy SEAL, Garrett Unkelbach, a man who will leave the door unlocked just to make bad guys think they have a chance.
I can't say it's my dream, but it'll definitely be their nightmare.
Well, this was sparked because Garrett said something. He's like, it's not something that I really want to happen, but actually I kind of really do want it to happen. And then he proceeded to tell me, this was recent.
I don't want it to happen.
Okay.
I don't need to smoke some dude in my house and traumatize my family.
Right. Okay, well, I'm glad that we got that clear. So it's not even a dream anymore.
I don't really want that to happen.
No.
Like I said, it's not my dream, but it'll be their nightmare.
Right. So. He does lock his door, and don't try and break in. It won't end well for you. That's the point of that intro. All right, G, the point of today's episode, man, I'm looking forward to getting into this because this is something I've been pondering about. Like, what makes a person change? Like what actually causes someone not just to change, like, oh, man, I got in shape for like that month, but I'm talking lasting change. Like people lack consistency, and we all know you need consistency, and people want to know like what makes change stick? Well, if you've ever wondered that, if you're in a place where you're like, man, there's this thing that I've been wanting to do.
It's crazy.
Today's the day.
That people don't change. Like
okay.
I don't remember the stat. It's like 60. I think it's like 60 or 70% of people who get open heart surgery don't change. It's like they have to take a saw and cut your rib cage open and do heart surgery on you and then wire your chest back together. And it's like 60 or 70%. They don't change after that. Like what?
Yeah. What would have to happen? Well, we're going to get into, if you're sitting there going like, why doesn't that make sense? We're going to get into that because there's some good reasons for that. So as I always do, Garrett, I always try and go like, okay, where do we see big change? And we've talked about this before on this podcast, but I think like I was looking for big changes. Like I Googled, big changes in society, and all the changes that it gave me for examples. Thanks a lot, Google. We have different views of the world because it gave me all examples of things that I'm like, nope, that's not going to stick around. It was basically a bunch of social like justice and all sorts of things. Like the Me Too movement was in there, and I was like, okay, these are not
nice one, Google.
Yeah, Google. We were thinking
take your level 1 psyop elsewhere.
Exactly. Oh, I'm going to filter my own search results today, Google. I appreciate it. But anyways, one of the things that did highlight that I was like, now that's a great example of where we've seen societal shift is smoking. So smoking in the 1950s was like at its peak. 1955, 45% of the U.S. adults smoked. Really think like that is insane. And then this is going to highlight how change happens. In 1964, the Surgeon General's report comes out and goes, yeah, that's actually pretty bad for you. And it's going to kill you.
It's like for a lot of people, if you look at your family history, 100% of your great-grandparents smoked.
Yeah.
Half to 3/4 or maybe all of your grandparents smoked. And then half or none of your parents smoked. Like you talk to people in their family history, that's what they'll see. Like everybody did, most did, not very many did. Who does that?
Right. Yeah, and that's where we're at today.
And now we're back to vaping
And yeah, I mean that's a whole other conversation. I'm not looking into vaping. I'm just talking about smoking. But it's so like
Zen pouches,
60. Yeah, that too.
Zenderellas.
60. Is that what they're called?
That's what they're calling them.
Okay, I'm not down with the cool kids like you are. But 64, the Surgeon General's report comes out, right? So you think like Surgeon General's report comes out and says this is really bad for you. Now rewind yourself to the 60s, which I was nowhere even around in the 60s, although it would have been really cool to be there. But how do you get the word out? It's not like now where you can have push notifications and everybody's reading the news and you can have, some influencers and it's on X and it's on it's not like that. So it takes a while to get things out. Well, in the 70s, they decide, okay, now we're going to start putting in, they put in bans. They had cigarette ads on TV and radios.
The Surgeon General's warning.
They had the warning labels became mandatory. That was in 1971 was whenever
It's crazy that you can even sell a product with a giant box, big, bold
Yeah.
letters.
This will kill you. I'll take 2 of those, please. Yeah. How much are they? $20 each? No problem.
We're gonna increase the tax to 100% of the product price. That's right.
Right. So get this. In the 70s, they banned them. On 1971, they banned ads from TV and radio. Like you can't advertise cigarettes anymore. So that should make
The end of the ad era.
well, the Mad Men were still going, but they banned cigarettes, and then the warning labels become mandatory. Okay, so you would think, okay, great. It still takes the 70s and all of the 80s. So if it was 45% in the 50s, in the 90s it got down to 25%, which is still remarkably high. It wasn't until now, like we're in the 2020s, where it's 12%, according to the charts that I'm looking at right now. And
And that doesn't include vaping.
well, I'm guessing, I don't know, man, because this is like I'm looking at the overall decline of smoking rates in the U.S.
Okay.
The point being though, think about like, okay, this will kill you, unquestioned. But I still enjoy it. No, it's really going to kill you. Yeah, okay, we're gonna have to cut off ads. We're gonna have to put the label on the thing.
Well,
we're gonna have to ban you from being able to do it in public places. Like, how much pain can we give you with this thing?
The people from that generation didn't change. It's just the generations after changed.
But that's my point. You think about like even in the 90s, they didn't have smoking bans in places.
Really interesting thought for you. We didn't talk about this before. Elon Musk, like people have asked Elon Musk before, like all these other, super billionaire world changer dudes are trying to live for forever. We don't see you working on any of this, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's at the very forefront of technology, but Elon Musk has zero focus on like how to live forever. And he says, I don't think people should.
Yeah.
Because people don't really change; they just die.
Huh. That's such a great quote. I like that.
He says like if people lived for forever,
Yeah.
or just even a long time, right? If like rich people live for 400, 500 years, he said it would stagnate humanity.
Now, what I would say though is that's without the transformative power of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Because if we
Elon's still he's got some friends hopefully moving in the right direction.
Praise the
He's
Lord.
hanging around some of the right people.
Because I love that quote until I think about the implications of it, and I go, actually, that would negate this whole episode and everything I live my life for.
It's a great analysis of the world.
Right. And that was what I was highlighting with the smoking. It's amazing that you see these key points in history, and yet the rate, like, yeah, it drops, but like it's not, you would think from a logical standpoint, if I said, hey, what you're doing is 100% going to kill you. It's going to take a lot of your money. It's going to turn your teeth yellow. It's going to make you smell. You're not going to be able to hang out with your friends in certain public places unless you're going to have to excuse yourself all the time. You'd think, oh, it's going to be 0%, but it's not. And so that's the whole point. It's like how much pain, because they had to keep introducing more points of pain. First, we'll ban the ads. Then we'll put a warning on it. We'll tell you it's going to kill you. Now we're going to have like active campaigns against it. Okay, it's dropping, but people are still doing it. Okay, let's raise the prices of it. Okay, well, they're still doing it. Well, let's make it a ban in public. You're not allowed to do it in certain places. Okay, like how much pain do you need before you change? And this is the whole thing of me really thinking about what makes a person change. And I think about my own story. I've obviously had a huge transformation in my life, and I know what that's like to live that out because, it's my life. And one of the key things for me is I knew, like, I highlight this all the time. I knew I was broken. I don't think I knew how badly I was broken, but I knew that my life was not working. There was a large element of discontentedness, of a lack of purpose, of pain, of feeling separation in the relationship with the person that I was closest to, and my wife. And I was very conscious that I needed to have something shift. And I was seeking it but I was seeking it in the wrong places. And then when God broke into my life, truly, if you know my story, I think it's episode 98 is my story that I share.
And a lot of people don't realize how much they need change.
Yeah.
It's like if your roof starts, like if you're getting a drip from your ceiling, that's a one little drip.
Mm-hmm.
That means there's probably a giant hole in your roof.
Right.
And that's the level of symptoms that people experience from how much they actually need change.
Yeah.
Right. Like the drip was starting to build up in your life. You're like, man, something's just not right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they need the change so badly, but they don't have a hole in their roof because hail went through it. They have a hole in their roof just from erosion over time. And
Right.
slowly, like things have just been leaking into their life, and they've gotten to this place over a long period of time slowly doing the wrong things in the wrong direction, and their life's just getting worse. And eventually that drip gets loud enough that they realize they need to change.
Yeah, and if your roof leaks, obviously you call a roofer, and if you're in Texas, you got 4,000 options, so you're never far away from that. But for a lot of people, you don't know what to do. Like if you go to start your car and your car doesn't start, well, is it the starter? Is it the alternator? Is it the battery? Like if you're not a mechanic, you're like, I don't really know what to do. I better call somebody. Who do you call for your life? And that's like why we exist, is like we want to change the perception of what it means to be a godly man. And we know that there's people out there that are hungry to grow. I think about me as like a prototype. I was hungry to grow. I didn't know what to do. I was, that's why I ended up with Tony Robbins, who I think has incredible material and a lot of merit. There was lots of books I read. There was things I was doing. There's, going to cognitive behavioral therapy. But it wasn't until God literally brought us to Texas into the environment that we're in now and brought people into my life. But more than just bring people into my life, the Holy Spirit broke into my life. Like nobody can ever convince me that God did not speak to me on that day when I heard the words, like it was like somebody put a megaphone up to my ear and said, "My ways are better." And that was what I heard. But what I actually comprehended in that moment was so much greater than that. It was like the Matrix plug. I had a patch upload where all these things in my life made sense, and I realized that what I was missing was God. I was trying to do all these things to improve myself, but I was missing the author of life. And when that came in that moment, I was repentant, and I said, if I'm going to be in, I'm going to be all in. And from that day on, it was like porn has been gone, removed from my life, has zero, like honest, no draw to me whatsoever. And especially after having Josh Broom on, I find it even more repulsive. And that's not to say that I'm judging anyone out there who's struggling with porn. I'm just saying like God did a dramatic shift. That's what I'm trying to highlight. And so I want to get into this because I think that what I've experienced and what I know so many other people are out there seeking and looking for is to understand what brings lasting change. So we're going to get into that. Now, we have fortunately, we are in a transformational environment here where we see people's lives change. What happens in Mighty Men is like such an encouragement. What happens through this podcast? Some of y'all reach out and you'll put reviews on, whether you write them on Apple, which if you do, thank you. That helps other people get this. If you put the 5-star or whatever, or you comment on Spotify, I read them all. So thank you for doing that. And I just see how people are like reaching out to us, or they'll send us emails and they're like, man, I'm changing my life from listening to you guys. I cannot tell you what a blessing that is. Garrett and I don't stop and give each other a high five and pat each other on the back. We just go, oh, Lord.
Just look at it when you send a review. Like, Nick and I appreciate it, but it's not for us.
No.
When you leave a review, think of it as like you're writing a letter to someone telling them like, hey, this podcast is going to change your life. I hope you check it out. And so I hope if you've experienced that from this podcast that you could just take a moment to write somebody else a letter.
Yeah. And because what we're seeing is that people are using what we're doing. And when I say people, I mean God. Like that's the reason why we do this, is we know that what Garrett and I say, if it's not spirit inspired, if it's not something that's in line with what God's doing, then it's just us talking about some cool ideas. And we never want to be that. We always want to be giving people things that can fuel their transformation and their draw towards God. And so I say all that to say, we're so fortunate to be in this environment, and we want to continue to just share what we have. But where we talk about change, there's this great quote from Peshke Craft, and he says, some people don't change until they hurt enough that they have to, experience enough they want to, or grow enough they're able to. And when we talk about what makes a person change, I've never heard a better quote. And I love quotes, and I'm sure maybe there's one out there. I'm not saying just because I haven't heard it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But like I'm going to say that again. Some people don't change until they hurt enough they have to, experience enough they want to, or grow enough they're able to. And if you think about that, you'll fall into one of those three categories. For me, I think it can be a combination of them, but I for sure was hurt, right? Like I knew there was pain, and I think pain is a blessing because it highlights things in your life that, hey, this isn't working. And when you see pain that way, you don't want to hide from it. You want to pay attention to it. And like,
the hurt is getting forced to change,
yeah,
right? It's survival,
right.
right? It is, you get forced, the judge puts you in rehab, right?
Right.
You have to change, right?
Yeah.
You're going to change or we'll change for you. We'll send you to prison,
Right.
So it's up to you,
Yeah.
right? That is a force to change, right? Your wife drops papers on you,
Right.
and you're like, what? I thought everything was fine, right?
Yeah.
Like it's change or change. Something's going to change. And so that's the first reason that people change. And it's what we're talking about today is so many people would like, you know what I would like, Nick would like, there's some things in my life I would like them to change. And wouldn't you like to know how to get things to change, right? If you wait for things to change, this is default living. And a lot of times if you're waiting for the things to change for you, you won't like the way that they change.
Yeah, big time.
That is it is one of the knowns of the universe is that change is constant, right? There are a few things in the universe that are anchored, and everything else around it is changing. And your life and the way things are going in your life is not one of the universal constants,
Right.
So everything, and this is the world that God has designed. Everything in your life is going to change. Let's get in front of the change instead of being behind it. Let's understand how to change, why we change. Like, let's get the things to change for us and change in the direction that we want them to, instead of just living a life subject to change.
Yeah, and I would challenge you, like the same way I shared the smoking example. How badly do you have to hurt before you're willing to change? Because one of the scriptures that I love so much is
Well, some people show that that's not even enough for them,
right.
right? Like
Yeah.
some people, they get diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah,
right? Lung cancer from smoking, whatever, right? Heart surgery from poor life choices, whatever. For some people, the hurt won't change them, but there are other ways that people change.
yeah. But I've observed in people, I feel like people have a pain. Most people have. Everyone has a pain threshold, right? You can't see it, but what I've seen, there's enough pain for people that I don't know what it is. It's different. You can't see it, but you go, man, your life is a mess right now, and they're like, they just keep going.
Yeah.
And then something will happen
It's boiling the frog.
but something will happen where it kind of ticks over and it hits whatever invisible threshold, and then they're like, that's like rock. I don't know if I should call it rock bottom because you can always go lower, but I'm just like, I've watched this in people where I'm like, man, you're not hurting enough. You're hurting enough for me where I'm like, man, please change. Like you're headed for disaster. But for them, they're not. And I think about that scripture. It says a wise man learns more from rebuke than a fool learns from 100 blows to his back.
Think about you go to the beach with your friends. A lot of
Right.
times your friends will tell you you're sunburned before you see it.
Very good analogy. Yeah.
Right? Like you're like, whatever, because your skin's just slowly getting cooked,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, bro, you don't look so good right now. You should put some sunscreen on. And I'm actually kind of anti sunscreen, but we're not going to go down that. Not going to go down that road right now.
But then somebody pats you on your shoulder, like, ooh, and then you realize how bad it is. And by that point, it's like, oh man, it's too late in the sunburn analogy. But yeah, I think about that. Like, how much would you have to hurt to change? And then the second one, like experience. Like, experience? Do you experience enough you want to?
What this is so, right, like there's first type of change is hurt, forced to, lots of pain. Experience, there's a lot of things that go into experience. Like analogy I would give for this is you go do third world evangelism, right? You're trying to like introduce Christ to somebody, and what they need is to hear about the love of Christ. But you try to tell a starving person about Jesus,
Yeah.
right? The first thing you need to do is feed them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this is a lot less practical to most of us, but this is a good understanding. It's a good analogy that shows like there's sometimes where you need certain ingredients before you can change. Practically what this looks a lot more like is with your kids, okay, or with your wife even. We talk about it on this podcast a lot. It's the way that Christ is with us. Don't give people what they deserve, give people what they need. Sometimes what your child deserves is a butt whooping.
Yeah.
But what they need to change is for you to look them in the eye. And I'm not a gentle parenting person.
No,
but for you to look them in the eye, sometimes they just need like some emotional center. They need some warmth, followed by some firmness, right? But it's giving people what they need to change, not just giving people what they deserve.
That's good. And
That's who Christ was.
Right.
Christ said, "I didn't come to abolish the law; I came to fulfill it." Sin still has a punishment. God is still a just God, but what God is saying and what Christ was saying is, I actually want things to be different. Let's not stone the woman to death. Yes, the law says we should do that, but more than punishment for sin, what I want is relationship with you. So let me give you what you need instead of what you deserve.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, then growth. You have to help people want to change.
Yeah, this is so you could kind of put them in the same category, but I'll separate them. Right, experiences there's certain ingredients people like they can't change until you feed them. They can't change until you love them, or sometimes we're the ones who are stuck. And this is you can hear and receive this podcast both ways. Hopefully you don't just hear this podcast and be like, nothing wrong with me, I don't need to change, but here's how I help change everybody else. But you can't hear this podcast both ways. How to help yourself change and also how to help others change. And there's the experience portion, which is like, hey, there's ingredients that you're missing. And then the growth portion, which this is, one of the best analogies I can give for this is guys that I was in the SEAL teams with. I would try to witness to some of them, and the typical church evangelism of, right, this is, it shouldn't be the typical, but this has been typical church evangelism because I don't think people have been educated properly and discipled properly. Typical church evangelism has been like, oh, you know what, like when they hit rock bottom, when they go through a hard time, I'll swing in and you just look at any person who doesn't have God as like, well, they're just headed for destruction, and they are. But that doesn't mean that their personal life is actually headed for destruction. Right. They may have like figured out some principles in life, and they're laughing at you as a follower of Christ who has zero principles in their life. Like, I don't want to learn anything from you. Yeah. Right. Like, your life seems to be going in the wrong direction. But I learned in trying to witness to some of like other SEALs of like, man, trying to talk to these guys like in their brokenness doesn't work. Right. I had a friend who literally just came home from a deployment of cleaning his friend's body parts out of a Humvee, hiding a drug habit, and in the middle of divorce. And this dude was just cranking it every single day, right? Like, he didn't need no help from nobody, and there was no amount of brokenness evangelism that could be done in this man's life. Wow. Right. The way that you could witness to somebody like that is say, hey, man, you're missing it, right? The path that you're on is not the greatest path. Start to tell him about what more is there for him. And some of that emptiness that you fight, because like one of my friends, he used to say to me, he's like, I know he's like, he respected me. And so he was joking when he said this. He's like, I know you're not a good SEAL because you sleep too good. All the good SEALs like fight inner demons. Right. He's like, you sleep way too good to be a good SEAL. Right. And but most of these guys, they have so much battle, but they're great warriors. And so they fight their demons every single day. But I couldn't witness to those guys who are like, man, like, Jesus is going to be here for your boo-boos. Right. I didn't work on these guys, but what did work, and what was the only thing that could work on these guys, was there's more, right? There's more life. There's a greater path for you. And that's the growth portion of really helping people want to change. And that's what I try to do, like in my coaching practice with people, right? Instead of people think like, oh, Navy SEAL, like I just need someone to beat me and discipline me and whip me. No, you don't. You need to think about the right things. If I get you focused on the right things, you'll change, right? Like the analogy I make all the time for between discipline and purpose. If I told you like, hey, you need to come run a marathon with me tomorrow morning at 4 a.m., most people are like, I'm out, bro. Yeah. But if I said, if you don't come run a marathon with me tomorrow at 4 a.m., something terrible is going to happen to your family. Doesn't matter what your personal level of fitness is, most people are going to make it happen. Right. Right. Because when you get focused on the right things, you'll do the right things.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, G. All right. So we wanted to like highlight what sort of starts a lot of people towards change from a very big picture, but we dove into the actual steps. And there's basically 5 parts for lasting change. And we're gonna dive into these now.
The quote is such a great. It's such a great intro. Yeah. It talks about like 3 categories where people get stuck, and we just want to go a little bit deeper because I feel like so many people get stuck in change. Yeah. They want change, and hey, something bad happened to me, and I didn't like that. But how many times have you tried to change or seen other people in your life try to change, and they just didn't really get to the finish line? They ran halfway to halfway, and they're like, oh, and then they circle back. Yeah. And so what does it take to actually get from where you are to where you want to be in the change process?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what sparked this, G. I know there's a lot of people out there that listen to us. I know because we read all the Mindset Mastery applications. And by the way, congratulations to Nick Mastelares, who won the Mindset Mastery Scholarship.
Was that a biased selection?
I actually did think because he had my first name, I was going to get accused of that. But I promise you, had nothing. He crushed. I mean, I don't know that I could have written a better application as far as somebody who was humble, hungry, and like was just really wanted to change their life by changing their thinking. But we had so many good ones. But at the same time, we did.
Well done to Nick.
You guys made
looking forward to seeing you guys in Mindset Mastery
for sure.
soon.
But I remember. So what I like reading those applications was actually kind of a very, I don't know, it was very humbling and very sobering, because in some people's applications you could read they so badly wanted to change, and they were hoping that just if we could just give them this program, it would change everything for them. And I know from experience what that's like when you're sat there and you're looking, because you're looking for something outside yourself. Like you're looking for the pill, the same way that the medical industry works, where it's like, here, just take this and everything changes. It doesn't actually fix the problem. It just makes the pain go away. And that's how a lot of people approach change.
Whether it's the weight loss drugs,
right,
or steroids or whatever. Like I've seen people take steroids and not change their fitness behavior and not change their eating behavior, and it didn't really do much for them. Right. You think like, oh, if I could just, what's the magic thing that'll change me? It's like you have to change from the inside out.
Yeah, and that's what I'm reminded of that as we go into this, because when we go into these steps, you're going to see nothing we talk about in these 5 comes from the outside. So just there's like your hint, and that was the biggest revelation I had in change. And I literally was reminded as we were pressing record of what it was when I realized, oh, so it's not going to be something from the outside. It's going to start from the inside, and that's going to push to the outside. And so the very first thing that it starts with, G, is humility. And you have a great saying. You say you can either be humble or you can get humbled.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I heard that in the SEAL teams.
Oh,
no one said it that way, but that was the message.
It's a Garrett and Uncle Buck original then.
It was the message I heard in the SEAL teams, right? Like where we're either going to humble you or you're going to be humble enough to learn.
Right.
You're one way or the other. You're going in the fire, right?
Yeah.
One way or the other, we're going to produce this product so you can either receive it or it can get prescribed.
Yeah. And I think the humility is so underrated, man. You can, if you're a Bible believing Christian, you know that, because you'll read all the scriptures about, humility comes before honor, and you talk about Jesus is coming to the earth, like, hey, the Savior of humanity is coming. What do we need to do to get ready? Oh, y'all need to repent. What do you mean? Yeah, you need to realize your way isn't working, because if you don't realize your way isn't working, you're not going to be ready for the way that's coming, the truth, the life. And it's actual repentance. And I think it's so deceptive, because a lot of times like, oh, I don't like this, so I'm going to try something different. And that's not repentance. That's not humility. That's just saying like, I'm going to try something new. And you can have the same heart of like, I'm going to dip my toe in and see if this thing will change it for me. But when you actually have humility, you just go, my way is so broken. Like I am open to, like, I need something better.
Well, I made this analogy at Mighty Men yesterday about taking people to the range.
Right.
And every experience I've ever had where I took like a married couple to the range, after about 45 minutes with them, I've got the woman out shooting the man.
Yeah.
Because the woman comes in there and is like, I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just tell me what to do. Like, put my hands on here. Like, where's my finger supposed to be on the trigger? How does this thing work? I don't know what this is. Like, show me everything. I know nothing. And when you'll be that moldable, it's like, I don't need very long with you.
Right.
Right. If you'll do exactly what I tell you to do and not add some of your own stuff to it, this is going to be really easy. But with men, like, I'll go over there and okay, hold it this way. And they're like, oh, okay. And I go over there and help the lady. I come back, they're holding it the way they were holding it before. Like, well, I didn't like that.
Oh,
okay.
Cool.
Well, I didn't ask you if you liked it. You came here and you said you want me to help you.
Right.
So what you like is completely irrelevant.
Right.
Then it really is just a lack of humility. Well, and it's not like those guys are being arrogant and telling me like, I know more than you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
People think that's what
right.
humility is, right? Like those guys, every single guy there was a level of humility for them to receive training from another man. And so that's not what the real humility I'm looking for is. Humility is saying, okay, my way doesn't work.
Right.
And just because I like it or it feels more comfortable to me to do it this way, I'm going to have to do something different. That's why I like to golf, because I get humbled all the time.
Right.
Because like so much of athletics were really natural to me.
Right.
And golf was not.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot, like I'm still, for as much golf as I've done, as much golf instruction as I've received, I'm defying the principles in so many ways. Like I hang out with the good golfers, I'm still not a good one.
Yeah.
Right. And it continually humbles me. And I know there's things in my golf game today, right? I won't go into them because it's not valuable to most people, but there's things in my golf game today that I know that I do that are wrong.
Right.
That I just don't like it.
Well, And, okay, well, you know what, man? So much of you. That's like you. I'm just going to push back. But really think about what Garrett said, because here's what every person would say. If we said to people, "Hey, are you perfect?" Every person listening to this would be like, "Well, no, I know I'm not perfect." And that's like what a lot of people think is humility. Well, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm trying.
But can't I just
right? And but I'm pretty good. But I do that. What he's saying is, when you're on the range and somebody comes up to you that knows what they're doing and is literally world class like you are and says, "Hold it this way," and you're kind of like, "I didn't like it," you would not think that that's pride. But that is literally the pride that's keeping you from being able to actually.
Why can't the way that I like it work too?
Right. I mean, I would love to say
that's the lack. That's really what lack of humility
yeah.
is.
And I would love to say this is only other people, but I recently bought a hunting rifle, and I've sighted in a rifle before with a friend who's well trained, and he guided me, and we got it zeroed in. I've used the rifle; it works great. So I got a new rifle. I was going to mount the scope. I was like, "Gee, you just help me mount it. I can go zero it in." He's like, "You don't know how to sight in a rifle." I'm like, "Dude, I've done it before." And he said his tone got even more direct. He's like, "You don't know how to sight in a rifle." And I was just like, "Yeah, all right, dude, I need your help." And that was like a 5-second conversation we had. But like, why am I seeing it? Because like I sat there, I'm like, why am I telling a Navy SEAL, "I got this, bro"?
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. So like we're all like, that's a real story that happened recently. We're all subject to this. And I look at what's happening right now in our country, and we're recording this in late September of 2025. And Charlie Kirk, unfortunately, was assassinated a little over 2 weeks ago. And there's a wave. Praise the Lord. You talk about the blood of martyrs being the water that grows the seeds of the gospel. We're seeing a wave of people come back to church, and we're seeing people realize and start to ask some eternal questions. And I'm so grateful that it's happening. And my prayer is that people find Jesus. They find a great body of believers that are seeking God wholeheartedly, and they really come to true repentance and lasting change. But I asked Garrett about this. I was saying, unfortunately, I think that a lot of people are going to come in and they're going to come to church for a few weeks and maybe, like you said, with the heart attack victims, fade back out. And I was asking you, I was like, how do you make sense of that in relation to humility?
Yeah, it's both when you change out of pain, you'll change until you're not in pain anymore,
right? And
then you'll go back.
Yes,
right. It's that Maslow's hierarchy loop where like
right.
you circle back, and what I don't want is for people to come to church out of fear.
Yeah.
Right. Or to come like what it has to truly be. And this is what I look for in people to join my teams. This is what I look for in people who ask for coaching, right? I'm looking for humility. Are you actually willing and open to learn? Can you admit that your way hasn't worked as much as you'd like it to? And now we can change. And this is what people need to hear coming back to church. Is it's not like, oh, well, man, like this is getting for real. They killed one of us and I got to go to church. What's been for real the whole time?
Yeah.
Right. Like this, you just saw what has been happening in the supernatural and in the spiritual bubble up into the physical, right? It just cracked the seams a little bit. This has been happening the whole time. And humility is you saying like, you know what? That this is a wake-up call for me, but I'm not going to come back to church because I'm afraid. I'm going to come back to church because the fact that this scared me isn't the problem. This scared me because I'm not who I need to be. This scared me because I'm not involved in training. I got an Army uniform at home, but I never go to the range.
Right.
I got my Bible on my phone, but I don't know what it says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's why I wanted to highlight that, because it's like, unless there's that humility and that actual brokenness of like, okay, where you have that realization, hopefully they have that deeper realization you just talked about, where it's like, okay, I'm not who I need to be. And actually this has woken me up, not just, hey, that scared me a little bit and I want to get around some good stuff. And so I think we've covered humility. I feel like we could keep going on it. But number two, what happens after you've been humbled, and we touched on it, but we didn't use this word, is submission. Right?
Yeah, it leads into it. And so you might think that they're similar, and they are, but here's what submission actually is, right? Humility is you get broken down, you become humble or you get humbled, and you become open to the Lord. Submission is a continual choice to stay humble. Submission is daily. Like my submission practice is daily. I get on my knees and I say, God, I want your way and not my way. God, forgive me of my sins and cleanse me of my unrighteousness. That's what I'm looking for. Like, God, I know you're the way.
Yeah.
I know you're the teacher. And what Garrett's really good at is coming up with some of his own ways.
Right.
So help me follow your way. That is submission, right? I can get humbled and be like, oh yeah, like Jesus and all that stuff. But without submission, I will slowly go back to my own ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so submission is this anchor that'll keep you in student mode. The word disciple means student, right? And this is what Christ said. Go and create disciples. Go create students. He says, don't just tell people about me. Don't get people to pray a prayer to believe in me. Go create students. Go create people who will be submitted to my way for the rest of their life. And that was what Jesus said. Teach them to become disciples. Teach them to obey my every command.
Mm-hmm.
That is true submission, right? Like this is in martial arts. You see this. You have to submit to a teacher. You have to submit to a master. And if you're in his training realm, right? If you're under his practice, you do what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are truly submitted to God and God's way, you do what it says. And that means you've got stuff in your life that is not submitted to God, and you have to continually work to throw that out. And so that doesn't mean like, oh, well, I just got to go make all the changes, rip everything out. No, it's a submission practice. You don't get into martial arts and just learn everything immediately. It's the continual practice of submission, and then slowly you receive more and more training.
Yeah.
But if you aren't submitted, the training won't stick in, right? If you're not submitted when the master's giving the instruction, what you're going to do is like, oh, I agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Right. Well, because humility has to come before submission for that exact reason. I heard Dr. Robbie say this once, and as with most things he says, it's absolutely genius. Because we think of submission as it's a sign of weakness. Like, oh, you're weak, so you got tapped out by somebody stronger. What it actually is you're coming under the mission.
Yep.
It's submission.
Right.
Well, when you become humble, the opposite of humility is pride. You start to not be about yourself and you become about something greater. That's what you're submitting to. You're submitting to Christ. You're submitting to his plans, his ways. And so now you see something bigger. That is not weakness. That's one of the strongest, greatest things you could ever do, to come in underneath a mission that's greater than you. And that's why humility has to come before submission. And then these first three I feel like are so blended together, but they come this order is true. And the next thing that comes after submission is truth.
And again, this is the formula for change.
Lasting change.
Right? Like you can go to the conference and get all the bullet points. You can go through, you can get a real motivated experience. You can go get around a bunch of the right people and get you going in the right direction. And those things are all good. But this is the formula for lasting change. So first it's humility, then it's submission, and then the next thing is truth. You have to have a source of truth, because without it, eventually you'll begin to question things again. And that'll lead you into a lack of submission. You'll become your own source of truth.
Yeah.
Right? Just the same way that Charlie Kirk said, there is a God and it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
There is a truth and you're not the writer of it.
Right.
And if you think you're the writer of truth, that you are not humble, you are not submitted, right? You're just following your own way, and you're trying to like maneuver how to get other people to agree with you and work with the things that other people are working with. No, you've got to decide God's way is the true way. And what this becomes is a foundation for you to actually build something on.
Yeah.
Truth is, right? Principles are truth. Christ is the Son of God who came, who gave his life for you. This is the truth that you have to anchor your life on. If you don't understand these things, whatever you build, it will eventually fall down.
Yeah, so good.
So I just say to this, we have the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And also, not in addition to the Bible, but in other domains. Okay, the Bible covers our entire life. Mm-hmm. But you also need to, like I was talking about to one of my teams this week about this. Like you've got to have the Bible for your business, right? Like you need the Bible, but I'm talking about you need a source of truth for your business. What are we actually, this is some of your vision and mission and values for your business. These are some of the principles what are we going to continually come back to when we face hard things, when things don't work out the way that we want them to? You know what? That happens in my life all the time. And what I do is I go back to the Word.
Right.
I go back to God's Word and I say, what does the Word of God say? Right? That is how you have to have something that when you're facing the battle, what are we going to come back to? When we go through struggles, what is going to tell you what to do? Because if you think you're just going to figure it out on the battlefield, you are waiting to get destroyed.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, Garrett, we're speaking obviously for Christian men, and typically you're going to say, okay, what's your source of truth? Well, I'm a Bible-believing Christian, and that's great, but I really want to highlight the importance. I look at my own story and I go, you know what? I had been to Bible college whenever God broke into my life. I had read the Bible a lot growing up, and I could tell you, I could quote a lot of scripture, but yet I was sitting there absolutely defunct and broken. How does that happen? Well, it's not just like, hey, you know what? If you listen to this and you go off and you just make the Bible the source of your life, you can just sit at home and just read the Bible on your own. You're good. That is not the way God designed it. You absolutely need to be part of a church and to be a part of a community of believers, to be part of the family of Christ, and to be connected in with those people. These are the people you're doing life with. They're not people you just see once a week on a Sunday. These are the people that you start to go, you know what? You're my people. You're my tribe. We're going to build life in. And you need this because if you say like, okay, the Bible's my source, you're making an assumption you don't know, which is that you know how to rightly understand and interpret it, which, hey, guess what? There's a lot of people out there who know a lot more than you, and they're still arguing and confused and unsure about things because it's not you're not asking a simple question. So don't ask a simple.
I love the quote that Pastor Josh has from John MacArthur.
Yes.
The late John MacArthur recently passed, who said, I know I'm wrong in my theology. I just don't know where.
Right.
And this was a man, his theology wasn't perfect, but that was a man who had a heart for God.
Right. And so that's for all of us. So you need those people in your life. And it's the way God designed it. God designed family for a reason. When he handed down the 10 commandments and gave Moses all the commandments, what did he say? Talk about these in your families. Talk about them at your tables. Write them on the floor. Like he was saying, you need to keep having these things in front of you. You're supposed to teach them to their kids and produce, and then they go on and produce. And what did Jesus say? He said, make disciples. This is God's ways that you would be around other people. And what I've experienced in my own life, how this looks practically, you think that you have an idea of what great would be, right? Like you wherever you're at, whatever pain you're in, whatever change you want, you have an idea of what it will look like when you get there. And the truth is that it's not going to look like that. And there's people that can help you see it more clearly. I think about what Garrett's done for me. I think about what other brothers have done in my life, where I will say, the analogy I use with Garrett when we were prepping this, if you're shooting yourself in the foot and your foot hurts every day, your dream is just to not have your foot hurt. And you go, man, can you imagine if my foot didn't hurt?
Yeah.
And there might be somebody else that comes along like a Garrett and goes, hey, guess what? You could run marathons with those feet. Wait, what? No, I just want this to stop hurting. Yeah. That's like step one of a 56-step process. You have no idea how great it could be. And that's God's greatness. And so you need people that can help. What I find is the more I get to know God, the more depth there is in my relationship, the greater your vision becomes, the more you see how wide and deep his love is for you. And the God who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask, think, or imagine, the God who says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind can conceive what God has in store for those who love him. This is the God who's calling you to greatness, and he's not calling you on your own. And you need brothers to help you knock off the blind spots, to see the greatness, and to help you mature properly. So just want to make sure we highlight that in truth.
Good, Nick. So again, there's 5 pieces, and humility and submission. That's the early stages. Like, okay, I'm dumb. I don't know nothing.
Right.
God, your way. Truth. Right now, we're getting something to build on, and this is the shift in this 5-step process to where you start to see things that, like,
yes,
when you're humble and submitted, you're not seeing anything work yet. You're just like, okay, I want things to work. I know I'm not working. And what's next? Okay,
Yeah.
Truth begins to lay a foundation to what you're doing, and it's the beginning of the encouraging process of actually seeing change happen in your life. Because I've talked about this before, one of the greatest, I don't need to be motivated. Here's my motivation in life. Those who are faithful with little will become rulers over much.
Right.
If you put a seed in the ground and you water it correctly, you follow the principles and the science controls for that seed and that growth, it will grow every time.
Yeah.
That's truth. That's the power of truth, and that's a huge encouragement, right? Gravity always works, right? And so this is the beginning of truth. Like, principles lie under the truth category.
Right.
When you start to see these things, you're like, man, well, it's not working today, but it could.
Yeah.
It could work.
Yeah.
Right? This is the beginning of the encouraging process. So the next step is, right now you know it could, but you're not necessarily sure what to do. The next big piece of lasting change in your life is a sense of purpose.
Right.
And this is like the true, not motivation, but source of inspiration. Purpose is understanding that God has a plan for your life. What it means is you matter.
Right.
If we take purpose out of it, why would you want to be submitted in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? If you take purpose out of it, and this is why it's the platform that I'm standing on yelling all the time with people, trying to get them to change, is the purpose piece. And then we got to circle back around to humility and submission and truth. But purpose, because a lot of people, they think their life doesn't matter. So if your life doesn't matter, you'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's where most people are at. If you think that your money is yours, you'll waste it, right? Like, it's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. right? It's like when I've been, God's humbled me before and given me revelation before. When I was managing investment, I realized like, oh my gosh, this doesn't belong to me. Like I better not mess this up.
Right.
And when you start thinking about then God humbled me and was like, well, why don't you treat your own money that way? Because that doesn't belong to you either.
Yeah.
And when you realize your life does not belong to you and there's actually a plan for your life, the last thing you're thinking about is what do I want to do with it? It's like, what is supposed to happen with this?
Right.
Right. That truth. And then the sense of purpose, what that becomes is a sense of duty in your life.
Yeah.
Like my life has meaning. There's something that I'm supposed to do. And when you get this, it's such an encouragement and a forward moving tension factor in your life where it's like, I have to move forward. I have to grow because there's something that's coming for me. I've talked about before how I've had this sandlot feeling in my life, knowing that the pickle is coming and I don't know when it is and I don't know what it is, but I've got to get ready for it.
Yeah.
I have to train. And so that's what purpose does. Purpose keeps you moving down the change road. Because if it was just about if we end at truth, then you would think that knowing is everything.
Right.
And knowing is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Purpose helps you understand, like, I have to move forward. I have to change. I have to grow, not just for me, but for so many other people that need me.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, you touched on it in the beginning of what you just said, and I want to circle back around because the number one thing we get asked about is purpose, G. People, yeah, because when you lack purpose and you've got an eternal call in your life, it eats at you. And I'm speaking from experience. But you said you'll shout about purpose, but then you've got to circle back around. How do you think that can your sense of purpose grow? Or do you feel like people try and shortcut, like, hey, I want the sense of purpose, but they've skipped humility, submission, and truth?
Yeah, because here's the way it works. When I show, we live a delusion, right? We're all living some form of delusion, and we're trying to get into God's reality. When I put the purpose mirror in front of people, what it shows them is a very scary thing. It reminds them of the emptiness that they hide from. And nothing will humble you and scare you like emptiness. Like, my life doesn't matter.
Right.
And when I tell you that your life does matter, right? Like, if you're willing to hear it, you'll realize the thing that you actually want to run from the most is the emptiness in your life. And I tell men all the time, like, I can make one promise to you about the gospel is that you'll never know emptiness if you'll follow God. And that is better than anything else you could possibly face. And so when I show people that purpose mirror, that's the wake up call for them of like, yeah, I don't want emptiness. And that starts the humility journey.
Right. That's so good. I wanted to see what you thought about how those would relate, because as you were saying that, I was like, I want to make sure we pull that out, because I think for a lot of people, they want to jump the purpose. But what you're saying is when you have a true sense of what that purpose means and what the opposite of it is, it's so humbling that you kick into this process. You can't just jump to step 4 here.
Well, and this is the lasting change process.
Right.
Because if you just like, again, purpose is supposed to reflect back to you your emptiness without God. And then that starts the humbling process. It allows you to go through all of this. If you just like, oh, I just got a plan, you're going to run out there with no truth and no submission,
right,
with no humility, and realize, oh, well, I thought I had a purpose, but nothing works. So maybe my life doesn't matter.
Right. And then, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy because you tried to skip the order. So that's, very good. There's a lot. I feel like we could go off on that, but I'm going to stay focused here. The very last thing is that when you have all this, when you have humility, submission, truth, purpose, it leads to what is actual lasting change, which is consistency. And
consistency doesn't come from just being disciplined.
Right.
Now, every man must have discipline. You must be disciplined. It doesn't work without discipline. I've been interviewing a lot of people for our team.
Right.
And I asked them the guys, like, I come into these interviews with guys who are like, senior robotics software engineers. I don't know nothing about nothing in that category. I understand logic really well, and that's about it. I don't write Python. I don't write, Golang code. I don't know nothing about any of that stuff, but they like all the questions that I ask. And one of the questions I ask people is I ask them the winning philosophy question. Well, why do you win?
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, I give them the caveat. I said, don't tell me you work hard.
Right.
Everyone in this room works hard. Right. And that's not why we're here. We're not here because we work hard. We're not going to hire you to this team because you work hard. That's an assumption. That's table stakes. Tell me why you win. Why are you good at anything? And I get to ask them that winning philosophy question. Consistency doesn't come from just being like, oh, I just work hard. I'm just a disciplined person. It's not where it comes from. You have to have it to be successful. You have to work hard to be successful. But really, the force that drives consistency is purpose.
Right.
If I don't, here's what'll happen.
Right.
Discipline is making yourself do what you know you should do. Purpose is reminding yourself why you have to.
Right.
And if you'll focus on that part, like this is the analogy I make of if you don't run a marathon with me tomorrow at 4 a.m., something terrible is going to happen to your family.
Yeah.
And that's just an analogy that strikes us because it's easy for us to, our brains are hardwired to imagine the negative more than
Right.
the positive. So this analogy is striking to people. You can imagine how you would feel if you just let something terrible happen to your family. Like, okay, I have to. I like, you wouldn't need to set an alarm the next day. You probably wouldn't sleep,
Right.
knowing like this is going to require my best effort, and if I fail at this, something terrible is going to happen. Well, that's what purpose will do in you, and it'll help you do that over and over and over again, right? That's why the things that come out of my mouth every single day is God has a plan for my life.
Yes.
Today's the day. Today matters. The best is yet to come. I'm continually speaking and reminding myself, hardwiring my brain, my spirit, and anchoring it to this life that there's more coming for me.
Yeah.
And today I must train.
Yeah. That example that you give of like you said, of the family, something bad's going to happen to your family. What's underlying that is what you want more than just to be comfortable is you want to see your family again, right? And that's a long-term desire. And that's what you're saying about purpose. When you have that sense of the eternal, when you have that sense that God's calling you to something greater, in the moment, you don't feel like doing it, but you're so reminded and you're so conscious of what actually matters that you're choosing between, what is it, the pain of the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? And so you're looking and you're going, okay, I know there's more. I'm going to keep going regardless of how I feel in the moment. And that's what breeds consistency and lasting change.
It's the hero sequence. It's the hero montage in every great film. What happens? The hero sees something terrible that they have to fix. Something's taken away from them that they have to go find it again. And so then the hero gets a purpose, and then he says, okay, so now I must train.
Yeah.
Now I must grow. And every great hero film watches a hero go through a process of understanding a purpose and a plan, something that's required of him, his utility, the sense of duty upon him. And then he says, now I have to train and grow. And so if you'll get this process right, like I hope you'll know, and I'll give it to you like I give it to so many people, know that God has a great plan for your life. There is a purpose for you. So let's go through the process so we can actually get to the end of the film. Christ is the hero of our life, but Christ has given you the opportunity to play your part heroically. And that's what I hope this podcast does for every single person, inspires them heroically to live the life that God has called them to live. So know that God has a plan for your life and decide to be open to change. Be humble. Don't be the man on the range thinking that you've got it all figured out. And be submitted. Find a teacher, find a process, find a people, find a mentor, find a group, and ultimately and most importantly, find God and submit yourself to Him. Understand His truth, understand principles, understand what governs outcomes, and know that then from that place, build on the plan that God has for your life. And just like the Romans 12 process talks about, that it is a process of transformation. And as you grow and change, more purpose is revealed to you. And I promise you, the greater sense of purpose that you have in your life, the more you're feeling that weight, the harder and harder and the more consistently you will train.
Thank you very much for listening, guys. Remember to share, like, subscribe. If you think that this would be something that someone would enjoy, please send it to them. We appreciate it all. If you want to get in touch, you can follow us on Instagram at The Impossible Life. You'll find us on there. You can also email at impossiblelifepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if you want to get in touch and find out about Garrett's personal or business coaching, that's the way to do it. Thank you again for listening. Go out there, think better, and live the impossible. See you again soon.